I offer my most humble pranams of Bhagwan's lotus feet, and I welcome all dear brothers. Thanks for coming here. Can all of you hear me?
Yes.
Outside also?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So it's a great privilege for me to come and in this very special place and talk to you and share my thoughts and experiences with you. What can I say? All of you are here. Many of you have not seen Swami, but the fact that you are here and you are seeing his creation, I think in itself, what an amazing experience. Out of 7 billion souls in this planet, how many really get a chance to witness this? I have been really fortunate that I was born in a family that started coming to Swami in 1972. So I was basically born in a family that in our altar there's a big picture of Swami and then small pictures of other gods and goddesses. So that's how it is. Swami was the god. So a couple of days ago, brother invited me and told me to share some of my experience. And since then I am thinking what I should share. So I thought of sharing 3 experiences of my family and mine, what I had personally. Then I also thought I would share 3 lessons. I have been coming to Bhakti very regularly since 1998, 99. Most of you were not born. And I also can't believe I am that old already. Because I still believe I'm still 20. So, but from 1999 almost every year I'm coming since 25, 26 years. And a lot has happened. So I thought of sharing some of the 3 lessons I learned. And I also believe that experiences and lessons are good, but we also should do our own sadhana. So I thought of sharing a couple of sadhanas that I personally do, and I will share with you, and you guys can try, because Swami would always say that first experiment, then experience, and then believe. He would always put a lot of focus that it should come from the source, not by force. Spirituality should come from within, and you will only get from within if you experience it. You can hear hundreds of people giving talk, but unless you have your own personal experience, again and again it will not be rock solid. Faith has to transform into conviction, right? I always like very much, there is this very famous psychologist called Carl Jung. Have you heard of Carl Jung?
Yes.
So Carl Jung was once asked, do you believe in God? So he said, I don't believe in God, I know God. So what I would, all of you should, as you progress in life, you should not say I believe in God. You should say, believe is something that you don't know. It might be true, I believe it. Right? But if I say it is evening, it is night, dark outside, you say I believe it. It's knowledge. It's conviction. So God should be like that. It should not be a matter of belief. It should be conviction. That will come from your own personal experience. And personal experience will come from sadhana. So to come back, I will share one. So my family has been extremely blessed, especially my grandparents, who started coming to Swami in 1972, and they had so many experiences. So one such was 1979. That year my parents got married, and my grandparents would come here almost every year during that time. I was still not born then. I was born in 81. So in 79, Guru Purnima time, my grandparents would come, but that year, my parents got married in the month of April, and Guru Purnima happens in the month of July. My grandfather used to work in LIC. You know LIC? Life Insurance Corporation. So he was working there. So he told my grandmother, see, this time we cannot go, one, because we spent a lot of money in the wedding. Second, I have used up all my holidays for the wedding and everything. So this time we cannot go. But my grandmother would, every evening she would wait that, my grandfather is saying, but he will definitely buy the railway ticket and we will go. So every day evening he would wait. There's a backstory here a little bit. So this is 79. In 1973, my uncle, that means my mother's elder brother, he actually passed away at the age of 20. He had cancer. That is how my grandparents first came to Swami. I will not go into that, but he had passed away, and you can imagine the parents lost their only son, their two daughters, my mom and my auntie. So in 79, it so happened one night, my grandmother, she had by the way 12, 13 interviews with Swami. So she has amazing experiences, and I was very close to her. My devotion and for Swami is because of the blessing I got from my grandmother. So one night my grandmother saw a dream where my uncle, who passed away, was pulling my grandmother through a very difficult terrain. And my grandmother was saying, it's very hard, why are you taking me, Babu? The name was Babu. Babu said, I'm taking you to God. And the road to God, to reach God is not easy. That was the dream. And the dream ended, she woke up. And she woke up my grandfather and said that I just had this dream. It was 4 o'clock in the night. And as they were talking, my mother, who was married, but she was at that time visiting her parents' place. So my mother was also there. It was 4 o'clock in the night. And I can tell you all of this because my grandfather used to write meticulous journals. Every day he would write diary. And I have this collection of diaries, where he would write his experiences. And I of course met my grandfather, who told me many stories when I was a young boy. So suddenly they hear a knock on the door. So this is all happening in Calcutta, where my family used to live, in Calcutta. So they go to the door, and in many doors you have a slit to drop envelopes, letters. So they see an envelope lying on the floor at 4 o'clock in the morning. They open the door, of course there was no one. My grandmother saw this dream of my uncle. My mother, who is actually she returned today, so who was there, who picked up the envelope. And they were all completely, there was a peculiar amount of energy in the room, in that place. So they opened the envelope and they saw 2 reserved railway tickets in the name of my grandfather and grandmother, 1 packet of vibhuti and 1 picture of Swami's lotus feet. At that time it was not a computerized system. That ticket was handwritten. And that railway ticket stamped, the envelope, the picture is still there in our house. So you can imagine the excitement and the experience and the feeling. So that's not the end of the story. So they come to Patni in 1979. They were seated in Russian lines, my grandmother and my grandfather that side. So Swami comes out for darshan and comes in front of my grandmother and says, Amma, Charan Leela. And my grandmother thinks that, that Swami she heard the word Charan, and Swami used to speak very softly. So she thought that Swami is asking to do Namaskar. She goes to do Namaskar, Swami goes a little back and says, Nahi, Amma, ticket mila. And then smiles and goes. So this is the phenomenon we are dealing with. I told, we don't even know what we have really witnessed. What really happened in these 85 years. Every time I come to Patni, and now I live in the Netherlands, I studied in the US, and many of you will also travel. And you can read all the books that you have, and I'm speaking it not as a devotee, but I'm very objectively. You see in the history of mankind, one individual who has done so much, who went to school only up to class 7 or 6 in a village in pre-independent India, at a time no internet, and just see what he has done in one lifetime. I don't think that we can even comprehend what has happened. It will take a few centuries, I think, for mankind to really understand what has happened in these few years. So this was with my grandparents. So I heard these stories from my childhood, and I have been also blessed, vibhutis and amrits. I saw materializations from my childhood. So as I said, Swami was God, and from my high school I started thinking, I remember that if God was, I knew one day it will happen, it will come when Swami will not be there. So I was aware when I was in my high school. So I thought, if God is there on this planet, what can be more important than coming here and seeing Him? And I'm really glad that I used to think like that, because I was not a student here, I didn't study, but I still used to come every year. So in 2001, I was seated in darshan. I came with my grandmother. My grandfather had already passed away at that time. So I don't know why, what punyam I did in my last life, because in this life, until then I did not do much punyam. So Swami called me for an interview. I just came in 2001. I came just like a college student, not with organization, not performing drama. So Swami called me. I will not go a lot because time is limited. And I can tell you, so that was the only one-on-one interaction I had with Swami. So I went inside and I was in, like most of you, I was in my UG2 at that. So in Calcutta, we used to have, now it has changed. So it was a 3-year degree course, BSc. So I was studying statistics. And I just shared today, in those days I was really not so good in statistics. I didn't understand. Actually my marks were very poor. So the first time I got inside the interview room, Swami held my hand. And he said, "What are you doing, son?" So that was the first interaction I was having. Of course I used to see miracles and all that. And the love and the concern I saw in Swami's eyes, I can tell you brothers, even I didn't see that in my parents' eyes. I cannot explain to you what was that connection, how much love and concern there is. So I said, "Swami, I'm in college." No, your marks are very poor." And then he turned to my grandmother and started complaining about him. So you see, I then went on to do my masters, I then went on to do my PhD, I then went abroad. In Swami's grace. But at that time I was just a college student and I did not know what lied ahead of me. And now I'm teaching, some of you will see and you know. So you see Swami in 2001, now looking back I realize that he completely knew what laid ahead of me. And he was not happy that I was getting distracted because he had a plan. So for all of you, it's not only true for me, and I'm sure you have heard this, the fact that all of you are here, we are all chosen people. And I'm saying this not with arrogance but with humility. We really have to believe that Swami has handpicked each one of us. Out of 7 billion or plus souls, how many get the opportunity to be in this divine place and be part of this divine mission, whatever it is. So that was 2001. Swami said, "No, you are studying," and he told me, "Study hard, don't get distracted, bless me." I had maybe 5-6 minutes, but that is the strength that I carry for the rest of my life. That those 5 minutes are the most precious. Hello? Yeah. Those 5 minutes have been the most precious time that happened. That was 2001. Then in 2005, I finished my bachelor's and then I did my master's. And a lot of miracles also in that, but I will just go and... 2005, I go to US for my PhD. I go to University of California. But I was very active youth member in Calcutta before I went. Very active, involved. Every year, as I said, I would come here. I would... and Swami was physically present, so you can imagine. Then I went to US and after 1 year I was really very sad. I wanted to come back. I said, okay, I've seen US, I don't like it, I want to go back. So 2006 for summer, I come back and pack all my luggage. I came back for 2 months because it was summer holidays and I thought I will give interviews, I will try to get a job. If I get a job, I'm not going back. That was my plan. So every time, as I said, I come to India, even now, I would come to Parthi. So I came to Parthi and I had a chance to go inside the bhajan hall. You know the bhajan hall? So I was in the bhajan hall. How many people can sit in the bhajan hall? About 300 people. So I was sitting somewhere in the center of the middle of the bhajan hall. I was not a student, as I said, I was a devotee. And then the actual students were seated in front who would sing bhajans. And then the bhajans, this was afternoon, bhajans would start at around 5 o'clock. 5 to 5:15 was flute, and at 5:15 bhajans would start. That was the routine in those days. So Swami suddenly walks in at 4:30. At that time Swami would hold somebody's hand and walk. I still remember, right? So Swami was holding a boy's hand and he was walking slowly. And the Vice Chancellor at that time was Professor V.K. Gopak. So V.K. Gopak walked along with him and then Swami started talking with the boys in front. They were all students from here. And Swami said, and he was speaking in Telugu, I was seated in the middle of the room. Swami was speaking in Telugu and V.K. Gokak, Professor Gokak was translating. And Swami started saying, I know you have gone outside to US for PhD and you were very sad and you want to come back. But I am taking care of you. I have sent you there. I am taking care of you, right? I am telling you what I remember, right? And for 5-10 minutes he was speaking of exactly my condition, my situation, which I don't know made sense to anybody else in that room. Because I don't know if there were any other PhD student from US who have come back, wants to come back. So it was so surreal. I still remember I was pinching because I thought it was a dream. Because these things can happen only in dream. But Swami said that, go finish your PhD, make your professors happy, then you come back and do Swami's work. So this was the second experience that happened. And the third one I will share with you is when I was a university student, I was doing my master's in Calcutta. I went to Calcutta University for my master's. And as I said, I was coming to Turkey and Swami was very important. So in between classes, I would imagine that I would close my eyes, one class had ended, and we would have about 5-10 minutes break. I don't know if that happens here as well, between one and the next. So I would close my eyes. One day I thought this idea, okay, Swami said I am always internet, I'm with you, we move around you, right? Swami was there. So one day I thought, okay, Swami is there, and of course I believe Swami is there. So I had a seat next to me. I just visualized Swami is coming from the door. He comes and he sits beside me and he was sitting beside me and I was thinking. And then of course Professor came started talking and I forgot about it. So after that in the evening I went back home. I used to stay with my grandmother. The story, my grandmother was saying. So in the night and my parents used to stay in another flat. So we had two apartments. I used to stay with my grandmother. So by the time I reached home, it was almost quite late, 10 o'clock. So my grandmother had already slept off. So I, removed my clothes, went into my night clothes. And in Calcutta, it's very hot and humid. So in Calcutta, if you've been to, it's not like here, you're sweating all the time. So you always have to carry a handkerchief because you're sweating. So I always used to carry the handkerchief and then I would put the handkerchief and everything I had in my pocket on my table and I would go to sleep. So my grandmother, in the morning, she said, okay, why don't you put the handkerchief in the bathroom, then I can wash it. So she took the handkerchief. I was still sleeping. And she wanted to put it in the bathroom to clean it. The moment she opened the handkerchief, vibhuti fell from her. This was the day, then I remembered, I had imagined for a few minutes Swami was beside me. Right? So these are the three, so I wanted to share three experiences. So these are the three experiences I wanted to share. But then what are the lessons I learned from them? So three lessons I want to share with you, which I really believe not only from this three, but also from life. There is one saying called Yat Bhavam Tat Bhavati. So this is really, and even now science, neuroscience, they say that the brain is actually a prediction organ, like AI, we were discussing, AI is a prediction tool. So whatever you are thinking, if you are thinking that Swami is with me, he is actually with you. So this world that we see is actually a projection of the mind. So the thoughts that we have are really, really important because that is basically manifesting this creation that of us. And I can tell you that whatever success I have, I've really always focused on right thoughts. So this is one lesson I would like to give all of you is that become aware. Just one thing, we have, I don't know how much control we have on our thoughts because can you tell what is the thought that will come in 30 seconds in your brain? Thoughts are coming from, we don't know, it's just coming, right? But what you can do is to step back and observe the thoughts and to set intentions. You can tell your mind, oh mind, like Swami is the first bhajan, Manasa Bhajore Guru Charana. You can just tell your mind, think about Swami's lotus feet or think about something positive. It is a lifelong, it will not happen in one day, 2 days. It is a lifelong journey. But the first lesson I learned is Yat Bhavam Tat Bhavati. There is nothing more important than your thoughts. That will create your life. The second lesson I learned is that of course Swami is there, I will come to that, but you know who is your best friend? You can say God is your best friend, but no. What I have learned is you yourself is your best friend. There is a beautiful verse in the Gita called Uddharedatmanam Atmanam Natmanam Avasadaya Atmaiva hi Atmano Bandhur Atmana Ripuratmana Atmana hi Atmano Bandhur. That means the self alone is the self's true friend. If you are not your best friend, and you can also be your enemy, Atmana hi Ripuratmana. So you can be your best friend, you can be your enemy. There is no enemy outside. If you have to be your best friend, what do you mean by being your best friend? That means, who is the best friend? Who has your best interest in mind? What does it mean? What I mean by best friend is that, you see, we are all human beings, we are here in this body. That means we are not enlightened yet. If we are not enlightened means, mistakes will happen. It will happen. We will try, but what is important is that every time we fall down, we get up. Because you see, Swami, what I have realized, Swami used to love us all without judgment. If Swami was saying, okay, I will only love the people who are good, then this Kulwant hall would be a room like this, even small. Right? But he loved us all. So we also have to love ourselves. Without loving yourself truly, loving yourself not narcissism, but loving your true self, forgiving you, being compassionate to yourself is really important. So try to become your best friend and see what is in your best interest. So this is my second, because otherwise if you depend on any external friends, they will be here today, they will not be here tomorrow. Even with God, I can tell you, if you're going through a lot of difficulty, sometimes you might not hear God is there, but you might not feel His presence. It is true. At that time you have to hold on with your faith. But you are always there. You are always there until the last moment you are there. So you have to know how to derive strength from yourself. This is the second lesson I have learned. And the third lesson that I have learned is also from the Gita. Ananyas chintayantumam yejana parupasate tesham nitya viyuktanam yoga kshemam vahamyam. I really love this quote in the 9th chapter. That means whoever is thinking of me, Ananyas chintayantumam, whoever is thinking of me all the time, I will not only take care of him, yoga kshemam, but vahamyam, I will also increase whatever he has. And I can tell you again from my experience that if we really put Swami in the most important center of our lives, then just see how Swami will take care of everything eventually. It doesn't mean that ups and downs will not happen, but you will see the strength you will get from that conviction that yes, Swami is there and he will take care. And this is again a sloka from the Gita that Krishna said 5,000 years ago, and which I really believe. Hold on to him and have him as the center. So all of this, but then how do you practice? I'm a scientist, right? At the end of the day, you have to do experiments. So how do you really practice this? So I will share 3 sadhanas which I perform, I do. Now you can hear about it and try it out based on your experience. So whatever I try to do, I used to observe from it. So one thing I've observed, one unique feature about this avatar is this avatar used to take letters. Did you see Ramakrishna Dev Paramahamsa taking letters? Jesus Christ taking letters? Shirdi Baba taking letters in the book that we have written? No. But look at one video darshan of Swami, he is taking letters. So one thing I do, every day I write a letter to Swami. I have a book, I keep it in my home, I don't post it because I know Swami is there. But I say, Swami, dearest Bhagavan, and either in the morning or in the night, sometime, maybe I miss 1 or 2 days, Swami knows, but I write a letter to Swami because I remember every time I came, Swami took a letter from me. Sometimes he took it on the last day of my darshan. I was sitting in the center, he didn't go inside, he took it. I even remember 2009, that was the last time. At that time, Swami was very frail. So I was sitting, I was in US at that time, a PhD student, I was sitting in darshan. And Swami could not even, he was so afraid. He pointed, Chakravarti sir was walking behind him. So he pointed a finger and Chakravarti sir took the letter and gave it to Swami. So I knew that is how Swami connects with us. So that is one sadhana I can tell you. And what do I write in that letter? First I express my gratitude. I don't read somewhere, from an ex-student. Swami, one day he was sitting in his room in Purnachandra in Prashanti, lot of letters. And Swami was very melancholic. Usually he is very cheerful, but that day he was very melancholic, and he says that, see, all these people have written me letters, give me a job, give me this, give me that, but nobody tells me thank you. Right? So gratitude, I just heard that there will be a gratitude program on the 15th. So express gratitude to Swami. And you guys, right, Swami is giving you education. There's so much to be grateful. So that is first thing I do. I say, Swami, thank you for giving me a good sleep. Thank you, Swami, for giving me good health. Thank you, Swami, for giving me this comfortable home. And then I ask Swami, whatever I have to ask, Swami, this is going on in my life. Who else can I ask other than Swami? So that is one sadhana I do. The second sadhana I do, as I said, right, from my experience of visualization. So I try 3-4 times in a day to visualize Swami is with me. I heard from, one of the practices from the Muslim religion, which I admire very much, is they have 5 times namaz, 5 waqt namaz, right? So I met, when I was in US, I was a Muslim Students' Council, and I met a Muslim scholar, and he was explaining different practices of their religion. And he said that, in our religion, we pray 5 times every day. Why is that? You can pray God, you have to constantly tell God something, He said, which I really like, he says that human mind is forgetful. We easily forget. Right? If I ask you, what did you have lunch 1 week ago? How many of you can say? No, because we forget. But all of you had lunch, right? So same with God. We get so carried away with our daily life, we forget about God. So if you can visualize every 3 hours, 4 hours, 2 minutes, that Swami is with me, or whichever form of God, that is really a powerful practice. And the third one I do, I think you can understand, I try to read a few verses of the Gita every day. Not the entire, just a few, because there's so much wisdom in that text that it really is a tremendous amount of inspiration and knowledge and strength and clarity about why do we do, what should we do, and how should we do. Because this is a text, spiritual text, which was given in the battlefield. Not under the tree or in the forest like the Upanishads, which are more theoretical in some sense. But the Gita is a scripture, is a dialogue on the battlefield. And every day we are on a battlefield, metaphorical battlefield, right? So there is no more apt scripture, I think, for mankind than the Gita because of how and where it was given. So these are the 3, and I will ask all of you, try it out for 30 days, because Swami would say, I would just end with one more, maybe just to tell you, on another amazing experience. So I came here in 2001, and I met one young friend on the darshan line. He was exactly my age, and his name is Sai Susat. At that time there was no WhatsApp, no Facebook, so I'm not in touch with him. I saw him a couple of times later, but now I'm not in touch. He was working in Visakhapatnam, working in Bangalore, but originally from Vizag. So that was the second or third time he had come to Parthi. And he said that he had never been in the front line, or he could never give a letter to Swami. And whenever he would sit, at that time there was token lines, I don't know if you know. So there would be token lines, you would always get the last token and sit only there. It was very sad. So I told you to one sadhana, Likhita Japam, home sit silent. That time it was. So I had this habit of giving Gyan to people. So I gave Gyan, even then. So I told, why don't you do Likhita Japam? And Swami is very happy with that sadhana. So he said, is it? He then bought this Likhita Japam copy. You still get it now, right? And he went back. It was 2001. He did Likhita Japam. So next week I went back to, I was still here. So he came. Anyway, I will forget that I will skip because of the time. 2 years later or 3 years later, I met him. Maybe 3 or 4 years later. I was in the US at that time. So I came, I met him near shopping complex. Suddenly, Arey Sai Susanda, you are here. How are you? Very good. And I see that Swami has given him a ring. You can understand Swami's ring. Green color ring, very bright. I think Swami has given you, yes, brother. How did this happen? Oh, it's amazing. So he used to work for an IT company. And his company, it seems, was the first company to set up a website for Swami. And his boss was the CEO of that small IT company. So his CEO knew that Swami believed, that Sai Susanda believed in Swami. So when they came to Puttaparthi to show that website to Swami, Sai Susanda also came. And he came with his Likita Japam copies in hand. And Swami spoke, and then Swami looked at him and he saw the Likita Japam copy. And said, hey, what do you have in your hand? Swami, Likita Japam copy. Bring it here. And then Swami materialized again. So then I felt happy that my gyan, could go in a good direction. So I gave you also some gyan, but I will ask you to try it out. I don't know, Swami is not physically here, so getting a ring will be difficult. You never know. But I'm sure you will feel Swami's presence. Whatever sadhana, because it's needed. Without some sadhana, like just you have to go to gym to work out for your body. Same way, sadhana is our spiritual gym to experience Swami in our heart. So with this, I thank you again for inviting me, and I will bring an end.